Give us about, in the next 3 minutes, some of the traditions of Christmas. People don't know this. I didn't know this.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people assume that Christmas is all pagan and that everything was originated from pagan celebrations, but that's not really true. The early church actually started most of the Christmas traditions that we have for evangelism purpose. For instance, the first time a Christmas tree was ever seen or introduced, St. Boniface was preaching a sermon. He was walking out in the dead of winter and saw this evergreen as an arrow pointing up to heaven. He cut it down, brought it into the church as a sermon illustration, and he encouraged the people to start bringing one into their home to be an arrow pointing up in the dead of winter. Well, that started the whole thing. It caught on. So later on, Martin Luther comes along during the Reformation and says, well, no one can see it in the window. Why don't we put candles on it? So Martin Luther, the great reformer, is the one that put the candles on the windows there in Germany. So the original Tannenbaum was a witnessing tool.
You hear about St. Nicholas. Who was that?
Okay, St. Nicholas of Myra was a Catholic bishop, and he went around, he's known as a patron saint of benevolence. So he went around giving gifts. And there's actual stories, documented stories. One time there was a farmer who was going to have to sell his daughters. And so at night, they would hang up their clothes by the fireplace to dry.
Including stockings, right?
And particularly stockings, because if their feet got wet, they would get sick.
Right.
So they hang their stockings by the chimney every night to dry. So Saint Nicholas of Myra dropped a couple of gold nuggets down the chimney for them to find. He wanted it to bounce into the floor, but instead it bounced into the stocking. And as a result of that, you know, people started saying, leave your stockings hung up by the chimney with care.
Yeah, the songs came along.
And, you know, after a while, a lot of this stuff became...
Did they hang fruit on the tree at one time? Is that a true story?
Yeah, no, it was decoration. Yeah, absolutely.
But represented the fruit of the Spirit in that day.
Everything was an evangelism tool. For instance, one of the... Because this was catching on, they said, why don't we start putting candles in the windows? And what candles in the windows initially meant was, if a poor person comes by and sees a candle in the window, then there's food on the inside.
Oh, really?
So you put candles in the windows so people would know where to come and get food at Christmas time.
Oh, my goodness.
Here's one of my favorite, is the wreath on the front door. It was originally holly with red berries to symbolize the crown of thorns on Jesus' head and the drops of blood. The green was life, the holly thorns were the crown of thorns, and the red berries were
So really what happened is over the years, we're almost out of time here, over the years it developed into traditions and it became commercialized, and that's kind of where it went after all of it. But the thing is, it's a tradition. America has the traditions of singing the national anthem before a game, which is being challenged now. We have the tradition of July 4th. We have the tradition of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And these are traditions. So whether or not you like tradition or honor tradition, that's personally up to you. You got to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. But we do know that some of my greatest memories was at my grandparents' house during this time of the year. So once again, as we're concluding out the program, I trust you enjoyed it, and we want you to watch next week as we bring you some powerful teaching from Israel. Don't go anywhere next week. We'll see you then.
Big Merry Christmas. And hey, if you don't have anywhere to go to church this Christmas time, we would love to host you at one of our Hillsong churches. Simply look up hillsong.com. God bless. Merry Christmas.
Imagine a way that you could partner with Hillsong and be resourced for your life's journey.
Well, the Hillsong channel is such a blessing to us, and the opportunity to take television around the world. I would love you to become part of a subscription where we will send you a team box. In other words, every month you'll get all sorts of books, resources, information that will help you to feel like you're part of our team and will help us to take this great message forward.
Hillsong Channel Now. The brand new video on demand service is here.
We're coming to you all around the world.
And for a limited time, you can access original series and hit shows.